Dan here, copywriter and marketing consultant. Welcome to the Actual Marketing Show, episode 2, where I talk to business leaders about their marketing actions and what actually works for them. Entrepreneurs get bombarded daily with the latest marketing tactics, and when they try one out, often they are met with failure. So I thought, why not go to the source? Why not talk to actual business leaders and find out what works for them and what doesn't? You know, there are so many ways to market your product or service, so let's find out from hardworking people who are in the trenches and battling it out daily. Let's get to it. Today, I'm having Susan Greene on the show. She's a copywriter from Florida. Where exactly in Florida again?
I'm in Orlando, about 30 minutes from Disney.
Oh, wow, that's
yes,
nice.
People really do live here.
Great. What's achievement we could start the show off with, something you're proud of to say that in your career that you've...
Sure. Well, let me just tell a little bit about my business, and I'm proud of it, so I think it qualifies. I'm a copywriter, which means I work with different clients on writing their websites. I write their brochures, their landing pages, sales letters, ads, press releases, even label copy, the back of packaging. Anything that has words, I've probably been asked to write in that genre. And I work with different clients because I'm a freelancer. So my clients range from manufacturers to technology companies, a lot of personal service firms, like a lot of attorneys, accountants, wedding services, wedding planners, anyone who needs to promote their services in order to get business and grow. And so that's when they hire a freelancer.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. And you know, that's the same industry I'm trying to pursue myself and grow as well. So it's great to talk with you and actually talk to somebody I can, well, I guess I could say, you know, you were kind of one of the websites that I'd come across when I was starting to get into my own copywriting business. And that's why I really am excited to have you on the show today, because your information has been really helpful to myself.
Thank you.
And you have answered to my emails and taken your time to answer questions from me. So that was great that you're willing to give back to other copywriters in the community.
I get emails from a lot of copywriters starting out, and I try to be nice and be helpful because I was there once and it was hard, and I wish I had someone to reach out. Of course, when I started, it was many years ago, pre-internet. I'm that old, and I couldn't just Google the answers. And the people that I could ask about it were usually people in my own company, and their viewpoints were limited. So when I hear from new copywriters, I try and help them out, but I'm also in the back of my mind aware that I may be training my competitor. So I hold a little bit back, but I try and get them started on the right path.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So I guess a question, we kind of went over an overview of what you do. And another question here I like to ask is, what's your why? Why did you decide to pursue copywriting? What's your story? So what, you know, I guess kind of how did you get your start, and what inspired you to go into copywriting?
Well, I am one of those people who knew from early on what I wanted to do. At age 5, I learned to write, and there was just something magical about it. It just appealed to me in a way that nothing else did. I mean, my folks signed me up for the ballet lessons. They signed me up for music classes. I learned to play the piano. None of that excited me like writing and reading as well. I was reading, you know, I was a voracious reader as a kid. And I knew that was where I wanted to go. I also come from a family that has lots of entrepreneurs, have been self-employed. I wouldn't say that any of them has built an enormous business where we're millionaires or anything, but they've had businesses that allowed them to be self-employed their entire careers and enjoy the work they do. And that was always an interest for me, was to be able to be self-employed, be self-motivated. I had a real job when I first graduated college. I stuck with it for a couple of years. long enough to learn and also to confirm that I didn't want to work for anyone anymore. So really, you had asked about my biggest success going back. My biggest success is that now I've been in business for over 20 years and I've been self-employed and I love it. I still love getting up every day and tackling different assignments. It's still challenging to me. I get a lot of pleasure out of selling as well, because that is a big part of being a successful freelancer or freelance copywriter. You have to be able to sell your services because the work doesn't usually come in on its own. When you've been at it as long as I have, you do have stuff coming in, but if you're starting out, you really need to build the business by making those cold calls and networking and writing companies that you think you'd like to work with.
Kind of see some similarities there. You know, in copywriters, definitely it seems they've been enjoying the writing for a long time. Like I think I wrote my first short story when I was 9, and I sent it to a publisher. Obviously, it got rejected with a nice little note once they realized I was a 9-year-old kid. I think it was HarperCollins. Yeah, it seems like copywriting definitely is like writers that maybe they're like, well, I want to make good money with my writing, you know, and copywriting seems to be a good fit for that, and especially people that like marketing as well. It's
right,
perfect
right.
fit.
Well, I'll tell you an interesting story of how I realized that I definitely wanted to do something with writing. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, I used to read Archie comics. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Archie comics, but
I remember some of those.
Okay, and in the middle of every Archie comic was a 2-page spread with reader comments, like reader write-ups. So you could send in a poem, you could send in a letter, you could send in a story you'd written. So I wrote something and sent it in. And about 9 months later, I got an email from Archie himself. And he said that I had won second prize. They would give prizes first, second, and third. I'd won second prize, which meant I was going to receive a check for $3 from Archie. And I was going to be published. And they told me what edition. So I was published and was very excited about that. I didn't, you know, I thought the excitement was just being published. But what happened was Archie comics were distributed all over the world. And they not only were distributed once, but apparently they were sold in all kinds of other countries for years. And unlike today, you wouldn't have this happen now, but they published my full name and my full address. And I started getting letters from all over the world, from kids who were my age, she said my age, and kids around the world would get it and see an American name and they wanted a pen pal. And so they would write to me. Keep in mind, this is long before the internet. And so they would reach out to me. So I was getting maybe 4 to 10 letters per month. And when someone wrote me, I wrote them back and I kept it going. And I had dozens of pen pals. It became a part-time job almost. I would come home, see what letters had arrived, and I would respond. And they would ask me questions about the US, and I would ask them questions about their country, the Philippines, Australia, also different states. I remember I had someone I wrote with for over a year in Colorado. Sometimes they'd enclose pictures. And of course, when you were writing internationally, it could be many weeks before you got a response. But I realized I really enjoyed writing and reading those letters. And that really confirmed to me that I needed to do something with writing. I wasn't sure exactly how best to channel it, but that was where I was headed. So that's the story.
That's a really great why story. Yeah, that's.
You know, the funniest thing is about 6 months ago, I was talking with my daughter who is in college, and my husband and we were sharing with her how we got started in our careers. And I mentioned the Archie comics story. And my daughter said, "Can I see the comic book?" And I said, "Oh, I've moved so many times, I've long since lost the comic book." And I said, "I think I still have the letter from Archie congratulating me and telling me what issue it was going to be, and I can show you that." And I really just wanted to show her so that she knew I was telling her a true story. So I showed it without my thinking anything of it. She noted what edition it was. And for about 6 months, she monitored eBay and she found it. And for my birthday in October, she handed me a package and I opened it and it was the comic book with my entry in the middle. I hadn't seen it in decades. And she found it. I mean, the internet's so amazing, and eBay, and you know, it didn't even occur to me to try and get it, and she did. And my son was like, "Oh, thanks a lot, Katie," you know, because his gift was pale by comparison, but it was a cool idea, and so I now do have the comic book.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
you should post a picture of that in the letter or so on your website so people can see that. That's great. That's a
neat idea. I might do that.
Yeah, that's a great story. You know, I find it's very unique how everybody gets their start in their own businesses. There always seems to be their own unique story into why they did it, and you know that's a very, very unique and interesting story. You know, like an Archie comic, and
and it wasn't being published. That excited me. It was what happened for like the next 3 or 4 years, just the letters from all over the world, and it gave me an interest in travel that I've never lost, and an interest in other cultures. It really was quite an interesting thing, that an unexpected, exciting thing that ended up translating into my career.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's great. What is your greatest business achievement? I don't know if you kind of already covered that at the beginning there. So,
well, I guess one thing I didn't mention that I probably should is that not only has my copywriting business grown to the point where I make a decent income and I have steady work, but I also have 8 other freelance copywriters who work with me. And although they're not full-time employees, they're other freelancers, I'm constantly sending them jobs and keeping them busy, and they have some of their own clients as well, but it's grown to the point where I have 8 other freelancers who look to me for work. And maybe later we'll get into how that work comes in, but it is exciting to me to be able to help other freelancers, and they appreciate the work, and I do also make something on it. Like I said, they're not employees, they're contractors, but I'm thrilled to have been able to grow the business that way. What it also does is I have enough business coming in that I get to cherry pick the jobs I want and give the others away. You know, I've paid my dues. There are some jobs I just don't want to do anymore. And so I'm happy to have someone who's excited to get that job and will make some money on it and hopefully turn a one-off assignment into an account with ongoing work.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kind of like I don't know, my day job is I'm a mechanic, right? And we got the apprentices, and it's always like, okay, I've been doing this for years, man. You go do the dirty work.
Exactly. And I take pride too in the fact that a couple of these freelancers had other jobs when they started out, and because of the work that I've been able to send their way, they've been able to leave their day jobs and do their true love, which is copywriting, like me.
That's amazing. Yeah, it seems like you really give back to people, and that's great to hear.
Thank you.
Many business leaders don't often consider themselves marketers, but I think we can all agree that in order to succeed at business, you need sales. And whether a business owner realizes it or not, they are doing something to market themselves and make those sales happen. So, I mean, in your case, you obviously are a marketer, right? Copywriter, marketer.
Right.
You know how that all works. You know, there's some businesses that they start up and the customers kind of walk in the door and they just, you know, referrals and all that's how they market themselves, and maybe they don't consider themselves marketing, but that's their system, whether they realize it or not. So what does your business do to market itself?
Well, I get my work from a couple different sources. I have clients who've hired me and have ongoing work. They maybe hired me for one job in the beginning, but then they now give me ongoing work. And so any day I might sign onto my computer and there's a request for, hey, Susan, can you write this brochure? Hey, Susan, can we set up a meeting to discuss this presentation? And so that's one source of work. Another is clients who I've worked with in the past that don't necessarily have ongoing work, but they do have occasional projects. And so I might hear from them once or twice a year, or even occasionally once every 2 years. and they'll just tell me, hey, we're updating our website, or hey, we need to produce a catalog, we need product descriptions, whatever it is. So that's another source. I also get referrals because I've worked with many people in the industry in related jobs, like graphic designers and web designers. Web designers, for example, often end up with a project that they can design the website, but they don't know what to do for the content, and the client may not have a resource either. And so I'll have the web designer call me and say, hey, I've got this job, it's on hold until we get some copy for the pages, the design is done, can you write the copy? So that's another source, is professional referrals. But by far, the biggest source of my new business is SEO. And I don't know if your audience is familiar with SEO, it stands for search engine optimization. Basically, when you go to Google and you search for something, who comes up on that first page? There are going to be some ads, but then there are also some sites that are organic, that people are not paying, they're not sponsoring Google to be on there. I'm one of those sites. I have figured out over time how best to get my website on page 1. And once it's on page 1, how to convert that visitor, that searcher, and into a prospect for me, have them click on my site as opposed to the other 10 that are there. And so I get new business inquiries every day. I track them. To give you an example, last month, which we're still dealing with, you know, the coronavirus and shutdowns, there was also the Memorial Day holiday. And over the course of that 1 month, I had 117 new business inquiries.
Wow.
Most copywriters don't get any. So I'm really proud of that. Now, of those 117, they're not all going to pan out to be good jobs. Some of them are people who are just shopping around for the best price. Sometimes it's someone who isn't quite ready to hire a copywriter, but they want to know what resources are out there. And sometimes it's someone who's just confused and they're, you know, they really need web design, but they thought that was what a copywriter did. And so, you know, it's not all 117 jobs turn out to be great leads, but many of them do. As I said, I keep 8 other freelancers busy, and it's mostly with those leads because I have my standard clients and past clients, but when the new business comes in, I don't have the room to deal with it. So I send it to one of these freelancers, and each of those freelancers has certain specialties. So for example, if it's a cosmetic company that is contacting me for copy for its labels and copy for its branding, I have someone who handles that. If it's a tech company, I have someone who does a lot of tech writing. If it's attorneys, I have someone who specializes in writing for attorneys. So I make sure that the client who contacts me feels like they're getting a qualified copywriter, but often that's not me. So the SEO, figuring out how to get on page 1 of Google for a lot of important keywords is a pretty good trick. And if you can master it, the work comes into you. I spend 0 on advertising, 0 marketing. I don't invest any time in marketing other than SEO. And if you were to search, for example, for website copywriter, freelance copywriter, copywriter for attorneys, I'm probably going to come up on page 1. And I'm hopefully going to get you to click on my site and then contact me. So it works pretty well. And like I said, I don't have to budget anything for marketing.
I mean, that's how I found you. It was
exactly. That's how everyone finds me. Like I said, last month, 117 people found me with me not doing any advertising. I mean, Google has really been the greatest thing ever for my business. And I should say too, I've built other businesses using Google. Most of them work, some of them don't.
Is the SEO now, is that something you kind of handle yourself, or do you hire somebody to do that for you?
I do it myself.
Oh, wow.
And I, if you look at my website, for example, you'll see there's a couple hundred pages. So I make sure I have a very big footprint on the web. Most copywriters only have a handful of pages. They're not going to beat me. You're not going to beat me with 4 pages. Because if I have 400, I'm a better information source than you are. And if I see you building more pages and you're coming up ahead of me, I'm coming after you. I'm gonna write more pages. I have said for a long time, nobody's gonna outwrite me.
You have lots of content for sure. Yeah.
Lots of good content. And that's another thing. It has to be quality content. I'm not hiring someone out of India who maybe English isn't their first language and the copy that they create sounds like it was written by someone from overseas. This is content that gives solid advice and good information.
Oh, yeah, it's all great. You got to check out Susan's site there. And if there's any, how to hire a copywriter. Like she said, she's really busy, so maybe she can't take you on, but she has tons of great information on how to hire a copywriter. So it's great for everybody who is interested in the copywriting sphere, I guess you could say. So yeah, it seems we've kind of gone over your most effective marketing efforts, SEO. Okay, so now we're going to get into the sadder side of the show here. What marketing efforts have you tried that haven't worked?
Well, I actually do have one. I have. It started out as a success, but then I piggybacked a failure on it. So I'll explain that. When I was first starting out as a freelance copywriter, I was not making enough to survive. And so I was looking for other opportunities. And I had the opportunity to teach career skills to young moms. These were mostly people, single moms who for whatever reason had children without partners, didn't have substantial income, had to go to work. And they needed basic skills like how to write a resume, how to write a cover letter, how to find potential employers. And so I was hired to teach that class. When I spoke with the principal, I said, well, what textbook are we using? And she said, there is no text. You just have to make it up. And I was panicked. So I did, what we did back then, we'd go to the library, not something you do now, but I went to the library and I checked out a bunch of books and I created all my own teaching materials and testing materials. And at the end of the semester, I had put together a lot of work and it was useful work. And I also contacted another teacher who was teaching a similar class at a college nearby. And I said, let's meet for coffee. And we met and I said, what do you use for a textbook? I had to create all my own stuff. And she said, I had to do the same. And I said, do you have all your materials? And she said, yeah. And I said, there's no book out there. There's no textbook available for how to job hunt. And colleges are turning these kids out without any skills in terms of like writing their resume. They just don't even know where to start. And the same for these moms that I was teaching. And so we thought maybe we should create a book. And we put our heads together. We both had a lot of content. We put it into a manuscript. And my good fortune was that she was a professor at this other college, and she sat on the board of the textbook committee that helped decide which textbooks. And so she was able to persuade her committee that we created a worthwhile textbook for these career classes. And the school placed an order for over 600 books. Wow. So then we had to scramble and get it published, which we did. And we sold the book to that school for many semesters, but I started thinking, we should take this national. So I wrote a couple of publishers and I got a bite. Houghton Mifflin, which was a big academic publisher. They're still in existence, although they don't do as much college materials. But back then, this was 28 years ago. And we created the Job Hunter's Guidebook. And since then, it's been 28 years, and every 6 months since that date, we both get a nice big fat royalty check because our book is used in colleges all over the country. I even set aside some visual aids I can show you. So the book kind of started out looking like this, and pretty straightforward and simple. It then we made it into more of like a workbook style that they could write in. So we went with a spiral, but this was one of the versions. This was another one, the Job Hunter's Guidebook. And this was the most recent. It is still being sold in colleges. It's also available on Amazon. And you know, it has just sold and sold. So every 6 months, we are still getting royalty checks on it. So that was the success, okay?
That's really impressive, though.
Thank you. It opened a lot of doors to be able to say I was a published author, to write a textbook that was used in colleges all over. It was pretty neat, and to this day, I'm still best friends with that college professor who I just so fortunately connected with, and who happened to be on that committee. Once we were able to tell publishers, this book is being used in this university, and it's been used the last 3 semesters, it's sold X number of copies, they were interested because we then had a track record. So that helped us get it nationally published. Mm-hmm. So here's the failure. It sold like that, and I thought, why don't we create an ebook? Since so many people are reading online, we'll create an ebook on the same subject. The difference was this was created mostly for college kids. This would be more targeting people who were professionals, had some experience. We're looking for a better job. We're looking to take the next step in their career. They already had a resume, but they were looking to build on it. So I wrote about 200 pages, and I built a website, and I did some marketing, and it flopped. I was not ever able to gain enough traction. The job hunting market online was extremely saturated. Remember, this was, 20 years after we had first come up with the idea for the original book. Mm. And the market had caught up. There were plenty of competitor guides, plenty of people also taking up that page 1 on Google for the term job hunting or how to write a resume. I could not get us on page 1. We didn't get the sales. So that was the failure. It was a lot of time invested that didn't pan out, but I did have the success, and I still get my checks every 6 months off of the printed book. So all in all, it's been an interesting experience. I also learned what goes into writing an ebook, which to me was very interesting, and is a skill I may have opportunities to use in the future.
It's almost like creating a website with the coding and all. I've put together some myself before, and it's a little bit different than a website when you got to go and fix errors inside of it. I think eventually I just hired some guy to do it because I was wasting too much time with it.
Yeah, it was a big time suck.
Yeah.
But it was worth a try, and I did learn a lot in the process. I think it also made me humble because I thought, hey, I'm on page 1 for my copywriting website. I know the secret. I know how to do this. What I didn't realize was that it's in a saturated market. It's just not that easy. And I was not the first one in the market. Like I was with my copywriting website is pretty old. It's like 15 plus years old. It was early internet. Mm-hmm. Here I was trying to start something when there were already so many resources online. Made it a lot harder.
I guess that kind of goes into the, I guess a copywriter has to differentiate, right? Differentiate the offer somehow.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's great though to hear you had such great success, and then not great to hear that you failed,
Thanks
obviously, but it's on the ebook side, but it is a good lesson, right? To the people out there trying to market their business that, there may be a lot of other offers out there that you have or services that are similar, but how do you differentiate yourself in such a unique way that you can stand above a saturated market, right? And that's,
and you really need to invest your time and effort into it. This was a side project for me. I was still very busy with my own copywriting work. Mm-hmm. And so I treated it, I don't want to say like a hobby, but it was not my full-time passion. People didn't know me as the job hunting person. They knew me as the copywriter. So there were a variety of reasons that it was not the success that I'd hoped. I still have all the materials, and in the back of my mind, I think one of these days I'm going to meet the right prospect and they're going to say, I need to create a book with my branding on job hunting. And I'm going to go, I have your book done.
Yeah. It wasn't top of your priority, right? It wasn't number one. So I'm sure with your experience, if it was top priority, you could put in the necessary work to make it work, right? It's just
right. It was more than I was willing to do at that point. So I cut my losses and I've moved on.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Our next question here is, what have you learned about marketing your product or service since entering business? So, you started at the beginning, now you are where you are today.
It's changed a lot. It's changed a lot.
It's changed, right? Yeah.
When I started freelance copywriting, the internet didn't exist. And the way I got clients was through personal contacts. I joined the Chamber of Commerce. I joined the Rotary Club. I joined a women in business networking group. And I made sure to take visible roles, like in the women in business group. I became the editor of their monthly newsletter. So every month, those members got to see my name and to see what my writing style. And those members, a lot of them eventually became clients. So it was very personalized networking. I would go to Chamber of Commerce meetings and, hand out my business card, talk to people. There was a lot of time invested, a lot of handshaking, and I also did a lot of public speaking engagements about marketing. And inevitably, at the end of the speech, someone would come up and say, "Hey, do you work with clients? I need this." And so that's how I got clients. These days, as I've already mentioned, I rely on SEO, search engine optimization, and my ranking on Google in order to bring in new clients. And that's how it's really changed. Now, I haven't seen a client in person in maybe 10 years. Everything has been done via email, phone, or Zoom or Skype. And it's really changed. I don't meet people now. I was constantly going to networking events in the past, and honestly, I don't miss them, because when you're at the networking events, you are not making any money. You are just trying to stir up some leads. But now, every available moment of my day is spent generating income by doing actual copywriting. I don't have to spend as much time getting the work. I can spend my time focusing on doing the work, and that's what I build for. So that's how it's really changed a lot. But I've been at this a while, so that most people don't have the pre-internet situation.
Yeah, I think a similarity though between how you started before the internet and how you started and how somebody new would start today is that they might have to start more on the outbound type connections and then work into that inbound.
I agree. I tell people who are starting out, ask your relatives, who in your family, does somebody have a business that you can do some writing for? Offer your services for free. Do what you got to do to start making some contacts, building a portfolio that shows off your work, and gaining confidence. You gain expertise, you gain confidence. It takes you a while before you're ready to go after real clients and have something of quality to show them. So yeah, that is what I tell. I will say too that in that time frame, I've been writing for a couple decades, and in that time frame, the whole business has changed because of the internet. It's not just how I get clients. When I started out, we were doing print work, meaning I was writing things like brochures, annual reports, print ads in magazines, flyers. Nowadays, most of my work is online. And even if I do a brochure, I'm creating a digital version of it that can be emailed. So the nature of the writing has changed over that time, and also how you operate your business, whether it's meeting clients and how you get your business. It's all gone through a transformation, and I mean, I'm loving it, and I'm glad I'm still relevant. I'm glad I'm still working, and I haven't had to get a real job yet. So I don't want to work for somebody else. Definitely not.
That's the dream. I'm working towards that point myself.
You get there.
I'm not going to stop till I get there. That's for sure.
And you know what? That's really it too, because I do speak with some people who are starting out as copywriters, and they say to me, look, can you tell me the secrets? Because I don't have 25 years to make money. I need to make money now. I can't spend the next 25 years getting to your level. So can you just tell me the secrets? And it's a little bit insulting, but no, I can't just tell you the secrets. I can't combine 25 years of experience and condense that into an email for you that will take you from 0 to, 100,000 a year or whatever. You need to put in the work. I mean, that's really the truth. And in any industry, you really need to put in the work. It's you can't just have it given to you. You have to learn. You have to build your expertise. You have to get comfortable with it, and eventually you'll be successful. But like you were saying, Kyler, you need to keep working at it. And there's nothing wrong with having a day job. And hey, I just told you I was teaching a bunch of young moms how to get a job, and I was fortunate to be able to find a way to monetize it afterwards. But that was a part-time job, and I did it to supplement my writing income, and it worked. Yeah. And you learn something from everything you do, right? No matter what job it is, you're going to learn something valuable.
Well, I think as copywriters too, it's our life experiences will really help with the copy, right? So I'm a mechanic. I also have a second job working at a dairy farm. So my life experiences, maybe I should write copy more for agricultural businesses. I don't know. But.
You write what you know. And so if you know dairy, I would definitely pursue that as a niche. I've done a lot of writing for recruiting firms. Why? Because I know job hunting.
That's great. We're going to be wrapping up the show here pretty soon. We're getting 15 more minutes till the hour. We're trying to keep the show around an hour. So I guess we'll go into this one before we end the show. What frustrates you the most today in regards to growing your business? If there is anything that frustrates you.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that frustrate me, as my husband will tell you. I think the biggest thing would be getting price resistance. I deal with clients, everybody wants your best price. I don't want to be the low cost provider. I've paid my dues. I've worked hard. When you come with me, you're going to get good copy, well done. The risk is minimal to you. If you want to go to somebody new or somebody who lives in another country and English isn't their first language, there's risks with that. I take away the risks. I know what I'm doing. I know what works. And I resent it when a client then tries to talk me down on price. You may not be the right client for me if you can't afford my rates. My rates are reasonable, but they're not a beginner's rates. And so places like Fiverr, and you probably know some of the others that offer cheaper.
Upworks and
which one?
Upworks is another one.
Upworks, yeah, I was trying to think of that. You can find a copywriter on there who will write, your copy. They'll write you a brochure for, $50. But will that brochure be effective for you? Is there a risk that you're going to send that out and you get no response? Wouldn't it be better to have your work done correctly and you generate more leads and sales? So it's price resistance that I'm surprised I'm still dealing with that these days, that I'm still having clients contact me who think that I should give them a discount because they just don't want to pay the full rate. And I'm not doing it.
Well, that's good. That's I've been listening to some other podcasts about copywriting, and that seems to be a common problem because it seems the businesses out there don't realize exactly that what a copywriter does. They're not just slamming words down on a page. There's research involved. There's a lot of thought into what words are going to get a response. It's you can spend $50, like you said, on Upworks for a brochure that doesn't do nothing. So now you're out $50.
Right. And you've lost all that time. Meanwhile, your competitor is gaining steam. They're gaining market share.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've over the years, I've elevated the level of work, and I've elevated the level of clients that I'll work with. And as I said, I do have these other freelancers, freelance copywriters. Most of them don't have as many years as me in the business, and they're happy to do less expensive work, but I'm not. And I am fortunate to have enough business I don't have to. I mean, that could all change with, all that this country's going through, but for right now, I'm doing just fine.
You're a veteran of the copywriting world. You deserve your rates.
Thank you.
Price resistance. So that's seems to be a common problem with copywriters, and probably I'm assuming a lot of other freelancers, graphic designers, and web designers. So I guess this is the fun question. I guess you could say every entrepreneur has a dream of their future, and when they're starting their new business adventure. And what was your vision, and how did you see yourself in the future? And how is that different today, right? So.
Well, as I said, I started out doing print work. I worked for an ad agency, and we did annual reports and print magazine runs, newspaper articles. We would get placed for our clients. It's just not like that now. The whole business has changed, and I knew I would be doing writing. It's just that the type of writing has changed over the years. As far as the future, I am continuing to grow my SEO, my search engine optimization, so that I get more than 117 inquiries per month. I try and beat it every month. And I can then give more work to other freelancers. And as I said, I do make something on that work. And that's probably the closest I get to passive revenue, where I have these 8 other writers who are doing work, and some of the income they earn comes my way too, because I hook them up with the job. I see growing that 8 freelancers. I'd like to, double that at some point, because it is kind of nice every day to sign on your computer and see all the money that came in. As these other copywriters get paid, they owe me my cut, and they send it by PayPal or whatever, and I sign in the morning, and I get to see what money came in overnight, and then I hustle to make some more the rest of the day. But I'd like to see that part of my business continue to grow. It's gratifying too. My daughter actually said, she goes, "I know why you love that part of your business." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "You get to play Santa Claus. You get 100 leads coming in, and you get to decide who gets that lead, and you're handing them out, and they're so appreciative. They really are. It's like being Santa Claus. It's like giving out little gifts." She says, "You come in the morning, and you're like, oh, look at all these leads that came in overnight, and this is going there, this is going there, this is going there." And I get to play Santa Claus. So, and I don't want to take anything away from these copywriters. These are talented people. They are hardworking. They're good people. It's taken me a while to develop this crew, and they do a great job for the clients. And I'm excited that they make something off it. I make something off it. It's a win all around.
No, that's great. That's sounds like a great business model for all parties involved. Awesome.
I think we covered everything, didn't we?
I think so. I think we're near the end of the questions here. So
I don't want to bore people. They probably heard more about copywriting than they ever wanted to. This
has been a really interesting episode, and your advice, obviously regarding copywriting, it will be helpful to anybody else in any type of business, especially other freelancers. So, no, this is great. Really,
you just got to do it. No matter what business it is, no matter what your business model is or your industry, it's hard work, and you got to be willing to put in the work to get results. And you can't just I'll try this for a month and then I'll try that. You know, you really have to find where you fill a need and then work very hard to prove that you're the solution to that problem. You're filling that need the best. And you will eventually see success, but you got to get on. And then there's this proverb, a Chinese proverb that I always like. It's the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. Yeah. And so don't wait. If you're starting a business, don't wait until everything is perfect. Don't wait until all your ducks are in a row or until you have the confidence level you need. It's okay to learn on the job. And so I tell people, go for it, just do it. And you know, when I was starting out, I had no business asking for some of the copywriting assignments that I got. I didn't have the experience, but I figured it out and I gained the experience. And if I'd waited until everything was perfect and I felt professional and competent as opposed to an imposter, I probably would never have started the freelance business. But I went for it. It's paid off. And that's what I tell people who are starting a business. Go for it, work hard, and you will get there.
Yeah, that covers the last part of the show, the advice. So you got that covered there, you know. And I think in kind of in response to that, myself, I'm a information fiend, I guess you could say. I don't know what the proper word. You know, when I want to research a topic, I'll go buy every book I can find on it and listen to every podcast. And then when it comes down to doing it, I kind of like freeze because it's like, oh, can I really do it? You know, when you're listening to it, you get all inspired. Then you go to do it and you almost, you know, you got to push past the part.
Analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis.
You can't spend all your time trying to learn. At some point you need to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, you'll figure it out. I often tell the story of one of the freelance copywriters that works with me. She's amazing. And she's young and she hasn't been writing all that long. I decided to take a chance on her because I really admired her go-getter attitude, and she's been incredible. I will send her leads and it doesn't matter what I ask her to do. I get an email back right away. I love that. So I'm like, hey, I have a lead for you. It's a plumbing client writing about, he needs a brochure on his you know, latrines that he builds, you know, and she'll write back, I love latrines, send me him right away. It doesn't matter. She takes on every job. And even if it's something she has zero experience in or zero, oh, I'll take that, you know, and she can't get it faster. She never says no. I have plenty of other writers who I will say, hey, I got this lead. It's with a tech company. Do you want the lead? And they'll say, I'm not comfortable with that kind of technology. I don't know. Maybe it'd be better if you give it to someone else. This young gal, she'll take everything. It doesn't matter how small, how big, how hard. She's almost, her naivete helps her. Like, she doesn't even know that she should not be taking on that job. She doesn't know enough. She doesn't have any experience. How is she going to execute this? She just says yes and figures it out. And I've learned a lot from her because I too, you know, lack confidence in certain areas and avoid certain situations. But from her, I've learned, no, you just go for it. You just put your head down and you just keep swimming, you know? So yeah, maybe that'll help inspire somebody.
That inspires me. And I hopefully the listeners too. You know, you just gotta do it. I think, you know, just from past experiences in life, if you don't feel confident about something, but you just do it, by the time you complete it, you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. You know? Exactly. So, okay, well, I guess we're going to wrap the show up here, but I just wanted, is there any way people can contact you?
I encourage them to go to my website, Susan Greene Copywriter, and Greene has an E at the end, so it's Susan, S-U-S-A-N, Greene, G-R-E-E-N-E, and then Copywriter, COPYWRITER.com. And my email address, if someone wants to contact me, is floridacopywriter@gmail.com.
That's great. So to the listeners here, that's the show. that's the show today. So thank you, Susan, for coming on the show and sharing your experience with us.
Thank you for inviting me. It was fun.
Awesome.
This is also the first interview I've done. So this was me forcing myself to go outside my comfort zone. It was sweet of you to offer to interview me, and I hope your listeners enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I enjoyed it. It was an honor to have you on the show. So to my listeners, please help me spread the word and leave a review on whatever podcast or video platform you're listening to this on. It is appreciated, and you'll get this valuable content out to those who need it most. Remember, if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and click the little bell so you get the video updates. And thank you for listening to the Actual Marketing Show. Cheers until next time. Do you feel imprisoned? Your business should work for you. You should be in full control. If you feel like an inmate subject to the will of employees, vendors, customers, and the economy, you need change. You need transformation. You need to bust free, take back control, and become the warden. But the problem is, you spent sleepless night after sleepless night, brainstorming meeting after meeting, trying to figure out how to make the change happen. You know one thing, it's revenue. If you can increase the revenue, increase the cash flow, you can take control. Because as long as you're running on fumes, as long as you're just paying your employees on time, as long as you're stagnant, you know nothing's going to change. 30 years from now, you'll still be coasting by. In fact, if you don't make a change, you know in 30 years, you probably won't own a company. Because it takes revenue, it takes cash flow, it takes money to innovate and keep up with the market. And if you don't have that money to change with the market, you probably won't last 30 more years, probably not even 20, 10 maybe. So how do you go from worried, stuck in the rut, and fighting off the inmates of business like yourself? How do you become the big boss, the warden, the person in control who everybody else respects as a leader because they know you can say no and still continue growing? The leader who can leave the employee wage jobs to the employees. The innovator able to leave the company in the hands of the hired and focus on those 1,000-hour ideas. There's one answer: revenue, cash flow, money. Because with more money, you can hire superstars to run the company without you. Because with more money, you can free up time to focus on the important big picture to generate even more revenue. Because with more money, you can say no to the unruly customer who tries to boss you around and tell you you're nothing without them. Because with more money, you can sleep well at night knowing you are growing. Want to increase your revenue, increase your cash flow, and grow your business? Then you need to talk to me. I generate leads that actually grow your revenue, not those leads that cost you money every time they suck up the sales department's time. How do I do this? Communication. I am a specialist in persuasive messaging. Words are my power. Work with me, and my words will become your tool to executing the great escape to the top. To learn how I can help you bust out of your prison cell and take over the warden's office, visit KylerCallahan.com. CYLERCALLAHAN.com. I also want to give a shout out to SRO for the track Neon Tokyo I use for the intro and outro music. Check out the show notes to go to the track page. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, search me up, Kyler Callahan. If you want to connect with me on Facebook, once again, search me up, Kyler Callahan. Also, links to my Facebook and LinkedIn page will be in the show notes. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Actual Marketing Show.